Bob, can you hear us? Bob?
I don't think Bob's on.
Ron, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
But Bob, we've lost Bob somehow.
You want me to have Bob call? I don't have Bob's number.
No, we were able to get Bob before. Bob?
No, Bob.
This is getting old. Well, your tenacity is wonderful. Thank you.
Blue.
Hi, we're trying again. Okay.
Good.
Okay. All right. Bob, you can hear us? Bob?
I'm still here.
Ron?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order.
Nancy, are you there? I was hoping.
I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Jan and Nancy Hall and I are here. Bob and Ron, you're on the phone, and we are still waiting for Nancy Olson and John to join us at some point.
Okay.
Let me just lay out what we're trying to do here for the canceled meeting and then the uncanceled meeting and all of that stuff. What I was hoping to accomplish today was to discuss all the items on the agenda, and for those that are eventually going to require a vote, since we do not have a quorum, we would get a sense of the committee, and then we believe we can get a quorum this next week. I think we're probably gonna shoot for Friday at 2 o'clock. Nancy, I hope that works for you, and hopefully it worked for Nancy Olson. And then we can confirm what we've discussed today. So it won't be, I don't think it'll be necessary for you folks who are on the phone to join that meeting. I see it as a very quick meeting, confirming what we are discussing today. So that.
Well, hey,
So that's the approach that we kind of tentatively agreed to at the last meeting, and I hope we can pull it off. It's particularly critical with regard to the budget, so we have to do that. So I'd like to get, again, we can't officially approve any of these minutes, but we can at least get, if anybody has any additions, corrections, that kind of thing. So let me start with the June 9th minutes. Anybody have any additions or corrections or anything of that sort? If not, I'll assume that those minutes are good. How about the June 21st minutes? I will admit on those minutes that I did quite a bit of rewriting to consolidate them and to take out the a lot of the verbatim discussion, because I don't think most of it was really relevant to what we were doing. Is there any additions or corrections to those, June 21st? Okay. Nancy is not here, and she's obviously a critical cog in our discussion of the budget. So my feeling is that we should move on to the association manager report. Sarah, do you have anything other than the landscape? Okay. Let's, the next thing on the agenda then is item 4, or 5, which is the PPAC charter. Ron, everybody has the charter, or should have had the charter, had a chance to read it. And your approach to this thing is gonna be to, if we approve it, which again would be done at our next meeting, you would take it and run it past Tony Pierce.
Correct.
And then we could take it to the CDD board.
yes.
Okay, are there any other changes or corrections? We've kind of jimmied around with that one a lot, and I think we've gotten all the corrections and things. We've discussed that at about 3 or 4. This is version 4, Ron, is that right?
Yes, my version 4, yes.
Okay, so I think we're gonna be okay with that one, and I think we can go ahead and approve that one at the next meeting also. So the next.
Okay, you want me to wait till after your next Friday meeting before I send it to Tony?
I think you could go ahead and send it to Tony,
Okay, very good.
because I think
Will do.
the sense of the committee is that we're satisfied with it as it is.
Okay.
Okay, a big thing to undertake here is the landscape contract, and so, I'd ask Sarah to come forward, so that we can discuss, the contracts as they are and the approach we wanna take to finalizing them. So,
Surely.
I believe, did you guys have the printout? Did Diane, was she able to?
yeah, well, she sent them, your emails.
Yes.
Came to us.
Okay,
All
so
right.
everybody got a copy, was able to see the full package that I sent out, the entire bid list, and,
Yeah.
and then also I provided just the quick snapshot breakdown of the spreadsheet comparison costs to give you an idea of, how everybody came out on that. And, the current contract, obviously, the specs are less than what we bid out the package. We increased the mows from 41 to 43, which also increased the weeding, edging, herbicide, and then we also increased the fertilizations to 4 to include 4 palm root drenching, which are not included before. And so I broke it out in what we are currently paying, and then what was proposed we went to bid with, I bid out 5, only 4 wanted to actually participate, just based off the demand of Pelican and what they were able to provide to us for our services. So we bid Mainscapes, Brightview, which was previously known as Brickman. They merged with Valley Crest and are now known as Brightview, Juniper Landscaping, and the current vendor, Ameriscape. As you can see, Ameriscape did come in with the lowest bid. Normally, I get worried when somebody comes in really low on a bid, but being that they know the property, I feel like their numbers are going to be accurate and they're going to be able to provide the services or say they're going to do for the price that they came in, unlike somebody that would have underbid just to get into the property without really knowing potentially what to expect. And how they came in then is just slightly above what we even budgeted for 2016. So with the increased specs, I think it would not cause a drastic increase in the prices for 2017. If you stay with Ameriscape, of course, if you decide to go with someone else, that would increase the budget that you're currently doing.
Mhm.
I don't know what you guys want to do next.
I'd like to, maybe you could answer some questions for us.
I can try.
I noticed the bids have a 60-day validity. Are we gonna, and they were bid on, what, June 7th?
Right.
Is that gonna be a problem?
No.
We're obviously not gonna approve them by August 7th.
No, it's not going to be a problem. They typically will write in a 30 or 60 day when they're proposing something
Yeah.
out. All have been in contact with me, just asking for follow-ups on where you guys are at. I explained that it's potential that you might want to speak with them or interview some of them, so they understand the process is long and that they'll come in with the bids that they provided a couple months past that 60 day.
Mm-hmm. I also noticed the contract calls for a 30-day cancellation by either party. May cancel with 30 days.
Yes.
Would that not be a substantial problem for us were they to cancel with only 30 days notice?
It could, yes, it very well could be. If they're, typically they write that into there to protect them for non-payment,
Mm-hmm.
is what we
Yeah.
run into.
Hey, Phil,
Yes, Bob?
we've had that same sort of 30-day either way in every contract that we've let on ponds, whether it's aeration or pond maintenance or fish gates, everything's had that. I don't know if it's boilerplate out of the district or not, but it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
I recognize it's pretty standard, but
The same in the landscape contract, prior landscape.
I know it's been in the prior contract, for some of your things, Bob, if it took 60 days or something, it wouldn't be a killer, but it might be but I understand that it's a standard.
Okay.
Okay, I understand. Sarah, I'm curious in looking at the, are you gonna get John in here, is that it? Huh? Yeah, we're gonna take a minute to get John on the line here. Hopefully we won't lose everybody else. You still working on Nancy too?
She sent her a thing to call, but we haven't heard from her.
John, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, loud and clear.
Good.
Too loud and clear.
Put you on speaker.
Hey,
Sorry, guys. I'm getting mixed messages.
Yep, okay. Bob, are you still there?
No, I haven't
Oh,
done
okay.
flash yet.
All right,
They let it cycle.
okay. Bob, can you still hear us? Bob? Ron?
I'm here. I can hear you.
Bob, you're there?
Yes, John is here.
You're John, you're not Bob.
Nancy, is that you?
That's a lady talking.
She was telling him what his name was.
No.
John, you can hear us. Bob, can you hear us? Bob, can you hear us? Ron, can you hear us?
Yes, Ron's here.
Bob?
Is John?
John's there.
John, you can hear us?
Don is here. I can hear.
Okay, we're gonna try and get Bob back.
We lost Bob.
Can you only have so many tied into the line?
No.
Oh, okay, 'cause I'm like, we always seem to be losing one.
Let's say go to meeting. Hello? Advertise that.
Bob?
I think it's waving this long.
Bob, can you hear us?
I think not even
Yeah, I'll
gonna
see if we can get some pictures documented
Go to
along the way,
meeting,
then
it's-
that way
go to
we
meeting,
can
I
get
think
on
it's
that.
on the screen.
I've been
Yes, it
saying
is.
this for several months, it should be this week.
We're gonna try and get Bob in on the phone.
Any kind of
Guys,
telecommunications conferencing.
Ron and John, I hope you can still hear us, and we're gonna try and get Bob.
Ron's still here.
Already, or are you gonna wait till they're done?
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
Bob.
it was supposed to be done 2 months ago.
Yeah.
They violated their contract all over the place, so, yeah, they're done.
We're gonna continue the discussion. John, we're in the middle of discussing the landscape contract,
Okay.
which you've received all the documents from Sarah, or from Diane, from Sarah through Diane. Sarah, one of the other questions I had, I noticed there's a huge variation in these things
Yeah.
by area, some bid high in one area and low in others. I mean, we've got Juniper, who's much higher than Ameriscape, except for the Cypress Grove common areas. Can you
Yeah.
explain why we get these
I-
variations?
I actually met with Juniper after the fact, and that's probably why we had the variation. Most of the vendors will reach out to you ahead of time and ask that you drive the property with them and discuss the map, and they actually didn't. They just bid it. So I contacted their contact there, and I let her know that they were really off in their numbers. She did ask if they could rebid it. They had somebody new that just started on and apparently didn't know the process. So I expect that we'll see potentially another bid from them. I don't think they'll still be able to come in line with the numbers, but clearly they were not envisioning Cypress Grove the way it was mapped out. But they are just all over the place on it but I mean, I drove the property with each and every one of them. They had detailed maps. And at the end of the day, I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know how they come up with their final number besides by square footage. So
Well, the two that should know the property the best are Ameriscape and Mainscape.
and Mainscape. And they were the closest. Obviously, Mainscape's is more, but they were the closest, at least in their estimate of the areas, where Mainscape was high. So on the
Okay, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, Ron?
I haven't done
Oh, you
anything
haven't done
yet.
it yet, okay. Okay, Ron, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
John? John? Bob, you can hear us, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
loud and clear for me.
Something wrong with it.
it's only taking 2 calls.
It's taken
Two calls, it'll only take 2 calls. That's the conclusion you come to after 45 minutes of this stuff.
Insanity.
Yeah, can we
Okay.
tie up 2 lines with Nancy and John? At least Nancy, we gotta get Nancy in on this, because we need her for the budget discussion. Okay, let's see if we can get Nancy, and we might just have to tell John.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, we
It's not
know.
taking more than 2 people.
It's doing, okay, let's try to get Nancy.
No,
Why don't you have her call in?
Yeah,
and-
don't
and
lose these
tie
two.
along. Don't lose these people. Because we'll lose them.
I'm thinking that we can't get more than two.
That's
Even
right,
if
that's what I'm
Paul's in.
saying. And
Can she
so I'm
call
saying-
in on a different line?
Yeah, that's what
Be
we,
like that.
Huh?
The only thing I'm thinking is, can she call someone's cell and put her on speaker?
yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
I've got this one.
okay,
See what the reception is. I got 3 bars.
okay. Let's try that.
703.
Hers,
Oh, I already,
You're doing
I already
Nancy.
texted her.
yeah. It's the 239-464.
And
I'm gonna have to
I've
check
only
on
got
this.
2.
This
Huh?
is-
I've only got 2, but I can call
This
John.
is a new,
Yeah.
phone service, so there's something not right.
So we tell them we
The
don't
last
like it.
time we used it,
Here,
it
do you have
worked fine.
John, you have John's number, cause Nancy can try to put John on hers.
I'm gonna have to call level 3.
Got 2 cans and a string.
Yeah, probably work better.
Okay, we're trying to get the other 2 on other phones.
All right.
We'll just have to juggle back and forth.
Hi Nancy, this is Jan over at Gateway. We're having trouble connecting more than 2 people to one line. So you're on speaker on my cell phone and I'm gonna put you over by Phil.
Hey,
so
John.
you can hear
Why don't you
everything.
move over
This,
here, Jan?
Oh,
this is
I can do
Nancy.
that.
I'm calling you on my phone. We can only get 2 on the speaker.
It's not your fault.
So, we're gonna try this. You're on my phone and,
Nancy
Nancy
is
is on,
Jan's
Jan's
phone.
phone and the other 2 are on
the
the
other 2
speaker.
are on the speaker. Okay.
Can you hear okay, Nancy?
Cut off. I do hear the report. I guess Phil and I can fill in with each other, but
Yeah, I don't think your report's critical, but I'd like you to be in on the discussion here.
okay.
Okay, so we are in the midst of the landscape contract.
Okay.
And, you all received all the information, we're just asking Sarah any questions we might have about the contract.
But to follow up, what I was saying was, what Mainscapes thought would be the most expensive section, Ameriscape thought the same all the way through. So all their number 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s came in line, just the numbers are different. Mainscapes is higher in their prices than Ameriscape is. The other 2 were kind of all over the place, and quite honestly, I wouldn't probably recommend the other 2 for this property. Brickman, I've worked with them on other properties. They do really well, good work, but they don't have the technology to back up the work that, like the reporting and the ticketing and things like that to support the demand that Pelican will have. So really, for me, would be down to those 2 anyway. And they were the most in line, although still $100,000, $120,000 difference overall.
I noticed that, or maybe I'm wrong about this, but actually Juniper and even Brightview work with Castle at other locations.
They do.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, several properties. Juniper has, and the unfortunate thing is, landscaping's the same, no matter what the vendor. I mean, we worked with all 4 of them. Some of them have been fired from properties, one of them being Pelican. Mainscapes was asked off a couple years ago. Some of them do really well on other properties. I really think it depends upon your support staff and the account supervisor that's charged with managing the people and the crews that they have on site, and the relationship that they have with the manager. Because ultimately, they're going to hire very similar people to do the day-to-days when it comes to just mowing, edging, weeding. There has to be a bigger relationship than that. So worked with all of them, had good experiences and bad experiences,
With all of them.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
depending upon the situation.
I just have a couple of kind of minor questions about the contracts. Is there no extra charge for freeze covering plants? It looked like the way the thing was written, that it was not an extra charge, but that would seem unusual to me. I may have misread it.
I don't, typically there is an extra charge to
Yeah,
go in
is
and
there?
cover
Yeah,
for
yeah,
freeze,
okay.
yes.
I may have misread that. It was contained in a paragraph. It didn't specifically say that.
And probably if it came down to something like that,
Mhm.
that would be a moot point for that vendor. They would just say, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it, because they're gonna wanna service the client and get the account, obviously.
Yeah. about emergency / hurricane recovery? What's the story on that? Is that a special, I mean, but they provide it, is that?
Right, they have their emergency costs that they provide, but then we also have, like the Pelican Master has a proposal that's signed with Ameriscape that says we're first.
Mhm.
So like you have that every year where you get that in with them and they'll tend to, they make sure to tend to our account, top of the list.
Mhm.
Who has this?
The Master with Ameriscape
The master?
Association, Pelican.
Pelican Group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is their contract with Ameriscape being renewed at the same time ours is?
No, this is ours.
Oh, master.
Yeah,
I'm confused.
yeah, we do it together as a package. So we do the CDD assets as well as the master assets because we don't want to have two different looks in the community. Typically, we try to make it a package deal. They're paid for two separate ways, though.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
How long has Ameriscape had the contract?
Since 2012.
I've had it before that.
Yeah, they had.
Did they have it before that?
Yeah. Ameriscapes came in probably in 2000,
I think 8 or
But-
9, Nance.
yeah. at
Didn't
least
didn't
that far
Ameriscape then
back.
next, and then wasn't Mainscape in between them?
I remember Mainscape.
Well, no, it was Greenscape, and then it went to Ameriscape, and then Castle, WCI wanted Castle to give everything to Mainscape, to Mainscape. And we said, well, time out, the CDD has to be a part of that. And so they backed off, extended Ameriscape while we looked at it, and ultimately we agreed to stay with Ameriscape. So Ameriscape's been in here since 2000.
Yeah, I think 8 or 9 at the latest.
I'm just showing that the contract was signed in June 2012.
This particular.
This one.
So,
but it-
so yeah, so that's the longest history I have. I just have
Yeah, no, it goes back much further than that.
So the reason I ask is, while they do know our system and infrastructure really, really well, the tendency, and this is just my experience, the tendency is with small companies, albeit small, is that they get comfortable and fat and happy. My personal experience with them has been rather unfortunate, but I would defer to everyone who's lived in Pelican. I'm probably the newest member in this room to Pelican Preserve, so y'all are satisfied with what they do with the common areas. I would defer to your judgment on that. Personal level, I'm not satisfied with the services that I have received and asked them for a bid. They came in higher than anybody else on my personal bid to re-put the landscaping in for the pool destruction. So, that's it. I just,
Okay.
usually a new,
Are we going to,
Yeah.
are we going to set up interviews with these
Well,
companies?
I think that's one of the things we have to see, Nancy, as to what we wanna do with regard, I think we kind of agreed we wanna set up interviews. And I think the question is, do we wanna interview all of them, or do we wanna just interview a couple of them? I think, that's kind of the thing we need to kick around here.
I guess I would ask, you sent, an opportunity to bid to Mainscape. Do we know why they were thrown off the property? I mean, I know why the CDD didn't want them doing the main part of it, but that was only because of the way it was bid at the time.
Mhm.
But I know Mainscape was in doing parts of Pelican,
Mhm.
and they no longer are. Do we know what the problems were? Were we unhappy with the work, or?
That's the history that I was told, and ironically, with Mary Beth was the one that was a part of that, and she was very clearly stated that they weren't doing what they should have been doing. They weren't fulfilling the obligations of the contract, and that's usually the sole reason to kick somebody off property. She now works for them, and she said that their systems have changed and improved upon based on things like that history. So she's,
Yeah.
she feels differently about Mainscapes now, but
Can you hear it, Nancy?
I can hear, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Bob, do you recall any of the details as to why Mainscape was,
No, that kind of preceded us.
okay,
The time it came to, P-PAC, we bid out and we interviewed a number of people, if memory serves me, and we went with Ameriscape. I don't know, they might have already been in place, but their price was competitive, and from then to now, we really haven't had any issues.
you know, I noticed that Mainscape is a much bigger company. I mean, it's 8 or 9 times the size of Ameriscape. So they have, at least it appears from the application, that they've got a lot of, on staff, I mean, I think they've got a certified arborists on staff. I don't know, Ameriscape probably, do they subcontract that kind of thing out? in
An
some cases?
arborist, probably, yeah.
Yeah, whereas Ameriscape, or Mainscape,
Mm-hmm.
is much bigger, they've got a lot of those people right on staff.
Yeah, they're a larger company.
Yeah.
Them and Brightview
And
are
Brightview's
larger. They have more of that support staff, and those are questions I ask all the vendors is, how are you going to be able to staff Pelican? Because really it's a full-time position for their account manager and for a lot of their support staff. It's just for Pelican Preserve only. So they would have to hire a crew, I'm sure, just like with any job. But they have the tools and the resources. What you won't find is with these companies that I chose even for this bid is you won't find them needing our paycheck for them to go buy the tools to service our account. They're all set up with what they need. They're just going to have to probably expand their personnel.
Did you see when you looked at these, Sarah, I understand why Ameriscapes probably would be trying to keep theirs lower. They're most familiar with the property and they know what the contract is today. Did you see any real benefit that, from your perspective, on some of these others that are bid much higher?
Well, one of the benefits, with Juniper is because they're also an installer in most of the community. So they have their own nursery. I mean, so they come with potentially different warranties on the newer product, but we're not. Most of the newer product now, that's just Cypress Grove, and that's only a certain section of it now. But having their own nursery, definitely they have some other expertise that some of the other ones may not, and people in their pocket. Like I said, Mainscapes has some really good reporting that they can provide. Brightview they do QSAs, what they come on site on a regular basis as a supervisor, and they take pictures of things and they notate things, and they have really good communication with the manager. But on the flip side of that, they can't produce some of the reports and they can't react to the residents like Ameriscape and Mainscapes can. Juniper also doesn't have any ticketing. It's just like you just email somebody, and that really doesn't allow us to manage and understand what the problems are when we place tickets and how we can evaluate that and what our services are, if they're providing the services that we need. So when it came to that, Mainscapes and Ameriscape are very similar in how they do their business on that end.
Yeah, I have one little anecdotal comment, and, I don't know, it's probably 2 years ago, maybe longer. One of my neighbors had a irrigation line going through his property and it blew. And we had water gushing, 30 feet in the air, maybe longer, maybe higher. At any rate, they came over, knocked on my door because they knew I was in P-PAC, and I called Javier and got him to answer on a Sunday afternoon, and he was out there within 20 minutes and shut it down.
Yep.
I don't say other companies wouldn't do that, but, those kind of little things just, you remember.
Yeah, we had a mainline break just on Cypress Grove the other day, and it was like middle of the night. I got the call, and I text Javier, knowing I don't think he's going to answer. I'm waiting for him to get it first thing in the morning, and he responded back and said, "I already have somebody on site." So it's like
I mean, that's got to be, it's an intangible, but it's worth a lot.
it is.
And
So
Sarah,
we may be the big fish, he's a small fish in our big pond, but he certainly gives us response and service.
Sarah, from your perspective, and I think you've said this before, you find Ameriscape pretty easy to work with, is that right?
I do. I think they respond in a timely fashion. Communication is so important to me, and I deal with other companies, even in Pelican, that don't respond in a timely fashion, and it makes it hard to service the residents with that. So that's one thing that I can say. Even if I don't like his response, I'm going to get one, and so I can follow up and figure out the best course of action.
Well, and we know that even though the price is lower, that they can deliver the services for that price, which
Right.
Well, they're already staffed for it, so
which
yeah.
A lot of the low bidders, in other cases, you have to say, can they do it?
Can they really do it?
And
We know
they
can
can.
do it. Okay, so I guess the question I would ask people on the committee, do you think we ought to be interviewing these companies, and if so, which ones? Any thoughts on that?
Well, the process that we've always used is we give the bidders, the top three that we think are potential winners of the contract, an opportunity to do a best and final offer. So they come and they say, here's what we're gonna do, and, this 167,709 price is really 161 something, or the bottom line best price would be down, whatever. So it gives them, and I don't know how it is here in Florida, but in Virginia, contractors, regardless of field of expertise, would always overbid their contracts by 10 to 20%, so they could come in at a BAFO and lower it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if there's that cushioning that's happening here. I don't think it's done with Ameriscape, because their cost is, $100,000 lower than anybody else.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And it might be worth having them come in just in case there is a chance that they might lower it a little bit.
Often what I'll do too is negotiate services, like if I throw in 2 extra FERTs, so we have 6 a year, we're looking really green, and, things like that. I mean, instead of like asking a bargain on their cost that they're providing to their men to do the work, because I don't really want to see them get gypped out of, because that's who's on the ground doing the work. But you can provide some additional services probably at, at cost or at no cost to us if you really want the contract. We can always negotiate those specs a little bit and work that in. Or maybe a free rotation of annuals, or, something
Yeah.
that's substantial.
Well, let me ask this, if we're happy generally with Ameriscape's work, what does $100,000 come out to per door if we were to say raise it? Because we're gonna be talking about the budget, and we're already talking about a 6-point-something increase before we touch the budget. Does anybody know what I can't do it on that. What the per door?
Well,
$48 a door.
It would be $40 a door.
Yeah, 4,800, yeah, for 2,500 homes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so it'd be $40 bucks a door.
40+ bucks a door
Yeah.
to just go to the next
Yeah.
lowest bidder.
That's
Right.
right.
Is this the budget year that we want to consider doing that in, with the increases that we already have in place? And I'm just approaching this backwards here,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. No, I,
This is Don, I'm a
Go.
little confused. Ameriscape is $100,000 below, is that correct?
a 120,
120,000.
really,
Yeah.
120,000.
And Sarah's very comfortable with her. We haven't had any major complaints with them. Why are we concerned with going with them?
Well, nobody said we were concerned. The question is, how do we want to go forward with the decision-making process? Do we feel, certainly it seems to me if we interviewed these people, we would certainly include Ameriscape as one of the interviewed parties. The question is, do we need to go through that, or are we comfortable enough with Ameriscape? Certainly their price is very comfortable. Are we comfortable enough with them that we would go forward without going through the interview process?
If Sarah thinks we are, she's been working with them, we've all been working with them. Why waste the time?
Bob, you
Who
used,
bid that we're so comfortable with the company?
Bob, you used to do ride-arounds, and Ameriscapes was there. You didn't run into any issues on the ride-arounds or anything, did you?
No, I sure did. They were more than cooperative. I learned a number of their people, like the guy, irrigation specialist, I think his name was Oscar, and he does all their irrigation stuff. I kind of echo John's sentiment, because I know we're not intending it, but it sounds a little bit like we're trying to talk ourselves into interviewing people so we can spend more money when we got somebody we like.
No, I'm just concerned with the $120,000 variance. That to me indicates something is missing? Maybe
Yeah,
not.
I wish it was 180,000, to be honest with you.
Well, Janet, except you say something's missing, except if they weren't the incumbent party, I'd be concerned.
Yes.
But
And it's
they are-
currently
they are the
$289.
They are the incumbent party.
We're currently paying 289,000, and we basically just increased the most 2 times more than what we currently do, and we increased the fertilization by 1. So you shouldn't see too drastic of an increase.
Yeah, well, I've never criticized the supplier for being too low.
Yeah. You know, we are asking for some extra services, but the price is going up from the current contract.
Everyone seems to be happy.
Yeah,
I defer to you guys.
I don't feel the need to interview these guys. Nancy.
Nor do I.
John, I assume you don't.
I say, yeah, let's go.
Bob, where do you come out?
Oh, I don't think we need an interview.
Okay, Ron?
I agree with that.
Okay,
Nancy,
Nancy?
okay, so,
Nancy.
oh, I'm sorry, Nancy,
I
I
have
missed.
mixed feelings about it. I know most of you are happy with Mariscape, and my only real experience was in the neighborhood where we were not happy. But if the consensus is not to interview, then I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm,
And Jan, are you okay?
yeah.
I'm okay, as long as the neighborhoods still have the option of using Ameriscapes or someone different.
Oh, the neighborhoods, this does not
Yeah.
change the neighborhoods,
That's-
and
I'm fine with that.
Nancy, to your comment, I was in a neighborhood that switched out of Ameriscape, and I would have to say that the main reason was, responsiveness. We had the impression that Javier had too many things he was trying to cover, but Sarah is saying he's very responsive, so.
Bigger fish.
Yeah, well, I understand.
We had with them,
How many times have they?
when, the best example I can give you is our palm trees were dying.
Yep.
And when we had Javier come to a meeting and I questioned him, he said it's because they're not getting fertilized enough. And my thought was, as our landscape contractor, he should have come to us before he let them die.
Mhm.
We were paying him $500 a shot for sick palm trees, and his answer was, well, they should have been fertilized for it. And I just felt that that was a very proactive approach on their part. And it kind of bothered me that the company that let our palm trees die is the one we were paying $500 to replace them.
Mhm.
So that was,
That's-
and then my other negative experience was when I asked him for suggestions on plant replacements. He didn't know them. He could not tell me what plants were good or bad or what we should use. He was gonna go to the county extension office to get an answer. So those are my 2 negative experiences with Javier.
Mhm.
Well, some of that, a county extension office, or going to the city, we have requirements about what can be planted in Pelican and what can't be planted in Pelican. And they have to be on an approved list. So
That may have been,
part of it.
yeah.
And I just want to reiterate, I'm not saying that one company's better than the other in this scenario. Like I said, we've worked with with all of them. And I'm not saying that there's not opportunities. I think there's always opportunities, and that's working with any vendor. I've worked with a ton of them. Right now, I'm relatively pleased with Ameriscape and how they respond to the items that I need for them to respond to. So that's just,
Well, and the other thing is we have in this contract, as we've had in prior ones, the ability to give them 30 days notice.
correct.
Yep. Okay, we have a couple of audience comments here. Gail,
I just had, did you?
Gail, you know, I'm sorry to have to do this to you, but if you would go to the microphone so that the people on the phones could hear as well as possible, I'm sorry to do that to you.
Dog barking.
They're at the beach, they're at Disney, they're in New
What?
Jersey.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of racket, sounds like a mouse trying to go through a wheel.
Yeah,
Somebody's phone.
it just stopped, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, it did stop.
It
Yeah.
did stop.
See, if you talk, Bob, you can just wish it away. Okay.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, has Ameriscape billed additional over their contract? Additional monies over their contract, and how often? And the other one was,
Okay, well,
I forgot.
you, go ahead, Gail, why don't you sit down, think about that, let Sarah respond, and then if you come up with it, you can just,
I know what it is. Okay, since Ameriscape does not trim the trees and they have to have someone else come and trim them, is that included in their contract or is that an additional cost?
okay, well, we'll let
That
Sarah
was-
respond to both of those, thanks, Gail.
The contract currently is not all-encompassing, which means it does not include annuals, mulch, tree trimming over the height of 12 feet. Those are extra costs. That would be extra costs for any of the vendors that you pick, because we did not include those in the specs. The only additional extra costs that we incur on a pretty regular basis are irrigation repairs to heads and routers and potential main lines and things of that nature. They do trim their own trees. They just don't have a licensed arborist on their staff.
But it's included.
So that is an extra cost. They trim trees up to 12 feet, just like all the other contracts. And then once it's above that, we do an annual tree trimming each year, which is what we're doing right now. We started that. And they come through and they trim it so that it's hurricane safe and
That would be
canopy.
true of everybody.
Yes, because it's not part of the contract, yes.
Okay, so the question, I think, go ahead.
Have they, the other question, sir, have they billed anything above and beyond their existing contract?
No, just for those items there.
Just for those?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Phil, can I make a comment?
Go ahead, Don, please.
Hi, it's Don Schaefer. Getting back to what I've heard the scuttlebutt on Ameriscape, I do believe what they do for the Master Association is a lot different than what they do for the regular associations. We had them, I got rid of them, and I'm not sorry. And Javier does a good job, but he doesn't stand behind what he says. And I understand, you know, your point, but what they do for the master, that, you know, it's.
Yeah. Nancy, did you hear that comment?
I'm only picking up about half of what you said.
Yeah, well, what Don said, he feels that they're more responsive and better for the Master Association because we're the big fish than they are for neighborhood associations. Because those,
And that's very possibly true.
I think so, because those of us, you and I and others have had.
Portofino as well, dropped
Yeah,
him.
others have had, you know, experiences that within neighborhoods that were not good, so I think that's a very.
And I also agree with this lady, Jan. I'm not sure that Mainscape has all the facts here. I don't understand how there could be that much difference also, I really don't. Such as the trees that Gail just brought up, and that's a lot of money, so. But anyway,
We must rent them maybe,
I'm sorry, Nancy,
just to get over to the bus.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
talking to somebody else.
plus I've noticed since the contract's up, they're doing a heck of a lot better job.
Well, you know what? They came over to Matarita yesterday and trimmed all the personal yards, and it's like, really? They've not touched them in the 7 months I've been here. So.
Okay. Jim, did you have a comment?
My name is Jim Marr, and I live in Carina. I've been there for 4 years. Mainscapes was our original provider. The services that we were getting were not seen to be adequate by virtue of a landscape committee that we had informally assembled. This was at the time when Mary Beth was on property and moved us to Ameriscapes. We've had Ameriscapes since. We've been extremely pleased with their service. We have a landscape committee that does a tour periodically, and we've been sufficiently satisfied
No,
that
we're not
we
able to hear the
I know that, I.
recently renewed our contract with them. So,
Okay.
and that's today.
His comments were basically that, his community, Corona,
Yes.
was using Mainscape when he first arrived. They were dissatisfied with Mainscape's work. They have subsequently, and I'm condensing what he said, subsequently switched to Ameriscape and are very happy with Ameriscape.
Thank you.
Basically, that's it. So that's a positive one. So we've got some positives and some negatives on Ameriscape. I'm of the opinion that we ought to just go forward and recommend to the CDD that we sign a contract with Ameriscape without going through a lot of extra effort to interview other companies.
Okay, I would second that, but a question, Sarah. Who gives the different HOAs the name of landscaping companies?
Who gives it to them?
How do they get a landscaping company, the different communities?
The board of directors bids it out just like we did for the master.
For each of the communities?
Yes.
Yes.
So the only one that can't do that is Matarita too, because we don't have.
Only if your WCI board asks us
If you're still
to,
a WCI board, you're gonna be an Ameriscape customer in here, right?
potentially,
Yeah.
yeah, unless
But as soon as.
they
you
get enough complaints and then they'll bid it out
Yeah.
based on their residents.
But as soon as you have an independent board, they can go and do whatever they want.
We made the switch while we were still under WCO.
You made the switch where we're still under WCI.
Yes.
That's interesting, okay.
Residents can petition their boards for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, so, can I have this is just a straw vote really, because we can't make any decisions here, but we can confirm them, in our next meeting. How many people feel that we can just go forward, with the contract, without doing, any interviews?
I do.
Nancy
Hall.
Nancy Hall,
Bob Geppert.
Bob Geppert, Ron, where do you?
Ron.
John?
John, I'm in favor of that.
Okay,
Jan's in favor of
Nancy?
that?
Nancy? Uh-oh, we lost you.
I'm sorry, I had to mute.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm okay with that.
You're okay, okay, so I think that's what we'll do, at the next meeting, which, I think has to be more than a budget meeting, it's gotta be a special meeting.
To confirm the
To
vote.
confirm the votes.
No
we
new,
will-
no new
it-
topics.
Huh?
No new topics.
No new topics, exactly.
Okay.
There will be no new topics, and we will just come in and we will have I see it as a relatively short meeting. Well, Bob, you gotta give me some leeway here. It took us 15 minutes to get the meeting started.
I'm sorry, I didn't think you could hear that.
Okay, I'd like to go back to not so much the financial update, Nancy, as the budget. Are you with us?
I'm here.
Good. And I don't,
We didn't have anything on the budget.
huh?
There's nothing on the budget here.
Well, I recognize that, but we'll confirm it sometime out. I think the critical issue here, it seems to me, is the estimates for what's gonna happen in 2016. Because that determines whether we're gonna be able to switch some expenses, that we might have put in the budget for 2017 over into 2016 to limit the increase in 2017.
Well,
Can you,
if you look at Stephen's proposed budget, where he shows what he expects the 2016 to be,
yes,
it shows extra cash.
well, yes, but what I don't understand is, he has a figure in there of 820, of forecast expenditures of $862,000 projected for the HOA agreement. And that compares with your $1,211,000 or 204, depending upon which one.
Don't forget, his does not include the pond, they've got the ponds on a separate line.
Oh, you have the ponds in that number.
When that budget, does it have ponds in it? Now I can't remember and I don't have it in front of me.
Well, no, I don't think you did. I think it was just your O and M numbers. That's what's got me confused. The one that was just sent to us today, it's got, it's got the shared expenses, then it's got the resident expenses, and it's got a
Okay.
total O and M maintenance expense.
Okay,
And that comes to either $1,214,000 or $1,204,000 or 205. And I don't understand how we get from there to Stephen's estimate of 862.
of 800.
Yeah, do you have it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference, because it seems
And I know you sent that question to Steve, but he hasn't responded yet, has he?
he has not, and I don't know where he got his number from. Because it seems to me your estimates are the ones that should carry the day. I don't know how he can estimate, our expenses, he doesn't have access to Sarah or anybody else, in order to do that. So if we're to look at your numbers, let's say, and is the number 2 budget, or Rev 2? Oh,
Yeah,
oh, this is fiscal year 217, okay.
Right,
I'm looking at
right.
the wrong thing.
that's
But,
only got the 2017 on it.
okay, okay.
What are you
And-
saying
and-
her number is?
The thing that was sent to us this morning.
Isn't this the one we got this morning?
Yes, that's the one. You,
Is it just the one where I reconciled version 1 and version 2?
yes, right, right,
Okay.
okay. Okay, and maybe I'm looking at the wrong documents. There was an earlier document. I'm looking at projected actual now.
Yeah, that I did a while ago.
Right, and that was $1,072,000. Does that one ring a bell with you?
It does, but I don't have any hard copies.
You don't have-
My phone with me.
Yeah, right.
Well, I've got my iPad in the room where I can actually look at it, but I'm not in my room right now.
Okay, it seems to me, and in looking at the numbers on that one, and checking it back with, what you presented us at an earlier meeting, the one thing that's not included in that number is, for some reason, the boardwalk, maintenance and repairs were left out. But,
This is too hard for her.
Well, I
Huh?
guess before we have our budget meeting, we probably really need to get the answer from Steven to know the difference between
yes.
his number and my number.
So I guess we are actually gonna have to,
This was,
yeah.
this
that-
was hers, 1,204,980.
Right, the 1,204,980, yeah, but that's the budget for 2017, that's not the estimate. And what
For
we,
2016.
yeah, the estimate for 2016, is another document. Hello?
And I think I sent a spreadsheet maybe shortly after our last meeting where I could just down the expenses for the end of the year.
That's right, and this was where you showed the 2016 budget, the projected actual,
Right.
and
That
that's,
was based on our actual expenses today.
yes, and that was the one that came out at $1,072,000,
Okay.
yeah, okay,
Which is quite a bit different than Steven's.
right. It is quite a bit different than Stevens, but that one didn't have the switching of the work on the Myrtles or the extra second bed, is that right?
No, it did not.
Mhm. Okay.
But there's a line item on there that's about $200,000, and I'm not sure if Steven includes that in our budget or not. It's expenses that I pull off the severance rent report,
Yeah,
and it's the very, I think it's the very top line on, the resident expenses.
well, the very top line that
It's
I'm looking at
landscape.
is landscape contract.
No, that's not it. Boy, I
Difference?
don't even remember what it was called, but it's the expenses that I pull off severance rent
Yeah,
and make it, adjust the entry for, and it's about $200,000. So I'm wondering if somehow my total's including that and he's not. But
Mhm.
until I get back to the room and look at the spreadsheet, I can't say for sure.
are you in a position to be with us next week?
Depends on the day.
Friday?
What day are you looking at?
We're looking at
Friday?
Friday.
Yeah, Friday's fine.
I think we're gonna have to have, contrary to what I told you, Bob, it may be a longer meeting.
Okay.
Because I think, we are still, we're still up in the air on this budget. Because I must admit, I don't understand, quite where we are, because we've gotta make decisions as to what we could transfer into 2016. Now, if your estimate of $1,072,000 for 16 is good, then we've got some elbow room, I think.
And if Stevens is correct, we even got more elbow.
Oh, we got a lot of elbow room. The other remark I would make about Stevens is, of course, he's got a lot in the capital program, and that's something that we could take down as well. Hello?
Yeah, I noticed that as well, it's got
556,000 in
Yeah.
the capital program, and
Yeah,
that,
that he's putting in next year.
That he-
And it sounded like he was putting in that because there was extra money in his budget to put there.
that's right.
I-
Which I found a little strange, because that runs it up, $230,000 from
Right,
the
right.
fiscal year
But
two.
is that because he increased the number of
E-
equivalent?
ERUs, yes. But even if you look at that, the increase per ERU is still about 6%. Nancy, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. We really need to understand this. I mean, it appears to me that if we possibly can, it would be very desirable to knock our numbers down, even with the additional EAUs. It would be very desirable if we could knock our numbers down by 6 to 7%. That would make us just about flat with this year. And I think we're in a position to do that.
I think if we take out, that one landscaping is 36,000, the other one's around 6, so.
Right, well,
that's moving 42,000 right there.
That's correct. That would help us, and then we can use the capital program as necessary to maybe achieve, but we really need to find out from Stephen. We have to reconcile your estimated numbers to Stephen's estimated numbers.
Okay.
And,
Okay, and I'll work on that a little bit tonight and see if I can figure it out, and I'll send him an email
yeah,
to see if he knows where our difference is coming from.
go ahead, Nancy.
Nancy, where does the audit exceptions come into play with this? Cause that was gonna come out of the 2016 budget, and have you seen what those exceptions are?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the very first part of what you said.
She was talking about the
The
audit exceptions, Nancy.
Oh, okay, yes, the audit exception, what Stephen told me is that there's money in the current year budget, it comes out of this year's budget.
Okay.
If there's not, it comes out of prior years where we had extra funds available. So somewhere they must have an account with all of the, years where we had money left over, and instead it would come out of that.
I hope they do.
So, first place is out of this year's budget, second will be out of prior years.
Have we seen what the actual exceptions are? I'd like for the committee to be able to see them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Sarah sent them to me, and, it comes to about $42,000,
Okay.
and it's made up of a whole bunch of small expenses. I mean, Sarah might be able to give you a little example of what's in it, because she sent it to me, but I went through them and there was nothing big, it was just things that looked like things were miscoded.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, you have that audit exceptions report?
That I sent to Nancy and to April and Brett to review?
Yes.
Could we?
Yeah, could
I
we?
could forward it to Diane and ask if she sent it
Yes,
out to
and
them.
send it, could you have that sent to all of us?
Absolutely,
And Nancy, it came to about $42,000, is that right?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought Stephen had mentioned a number to me of about 50,000, but I may have been mistaken. Okay. Well, the
Sarah, what, do you remember 42,000?
Yes.
42,000, okay.
She agrees.
Yep. So the critical issue is how much room do we have in 2016 to move some of this stuff in?
And what made up his 563 or 556 or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Well, oh, it's 556 was just a plug. I think he plugged that to bring it to a certain level.
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
there's some susplaining needs to be done there.
Yes, exactly. Okay. We're gonna have to bring that to the ground on next Friday. Okay.
You guys, I can't hear anything
I think
anymore.
somebody's
You can't?
walking around the
Hello?
house. I think they're walking.
Okay.
Let her go.
Why don't you go ahead?
Back.
Nancy, why don't you cut out or, okay?
Okay.
And, we'll continue without you.
Okay.
Um,
See you guys next Friday then.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. The next item on the agenda is road and pond turnover. Ron, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still out here.
And
Taking
Bob?
the noise back.
Yeah,
Still here, Greg in there.
okay, all right. So we still got 6 of us. Road and pond turnover, I don't think there's much to be said about that, other than there are a couple of things that have occurred that we need to understand. One of them is that the ponds work group was going to do some, Bob, maybe you can explain it, the storm pipe
Yeah.
visuals.
After our early experience with WCI telling us everything was good, and then realizing good, meaning the pipes were clean and were completed and where they said they would be, we made a determination, 4 or 5 years ago, that any time pipes were turned over to us, we would inspect them. Okay, from the time we made that decision until today, we have since passed a change in our permit requirement in that when WCI says they want to build a community, they have to get a permit. And one of the criteria now is that they have to provide video inspection of every pipe. Okay, Cypress Grove Track L, which is coming to us, is the track that falls in the cracks. It was permitted before that requirement was there, so they only have to give us one of the streets, and that's Solaro. They don't have to do any of the others, nor Cypress Grove Boulevard. So we had budgeted money in order to inspect those pipes. When we moved forward with our proposal to the board to inspect it, Gary Neubauer raised the question. He says, well, we all know we need this. Let's force WCI to do it. And that's exactly where we stand today. I mean, I'm all in favor of saving money, and I hope we can, but I have been told that we don't really have the legal, justification to oppose that on it. But again, so it's a political thing. I don't really have a comment. If you can save us money, I think we should save it.
And right now, where that is in the process is that April and Tyler, I guess, are putting together some kind of a letter to go to David Caldwell.
That's where it's supposed to be right now, yes.
Okay, to see whether they will do that. So as far as we're concerned on the committee, the conveyance of the ponds is temporarily held up until we resolve that issue as to who's gonna pay for the videoing of the storm pipes.
Well, let's, for further clarification with the group,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if they convey them to us. It's not in our best interest one way or the other. So it's not a pressing matter. It's a pressing matter to WCI because they're bearing the cost and they want to get away from that.
Yes,
And that,
and I think that's true. Tony believes that a delay is not a problem at this point, and we certainly agree with him.
yeah, absolutely. Because we don't have any money budgeted to handle the 7 new ponds until our next fiscal year, 17. So we actually have from now until November to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. There is also, we also, as far as the road transfers are concerned, the SSWG had a survey done by a transportation engineer from the city to look at our signage, both in Cypress Grove and in Old Pelican Preserve. And we're waiting for his report, but there may be some additional concerns we have with regard to the roads. We've already, and I think you've seen them, we've already put in several concerns that we have about the road transfer before the conveyance of the roads to us. So that, those things are all kind of hanging in there.
I think Carol Brocky might have raised one additional issue, and that's that the, I'm gonna get it wrong, I think, Prado neighborhood,
Yes, oh yeah.
is, that has been approved, for plating, is in conflict with the DRI. And so I think that question's been raised to Tony, which may also impact the road
Conveyance.
turnover and conveyance, yeah.
Okay.
Is that your understanding too?
I wasn't sure that that was gonna impact that. I know that was of a concern to Carol. Yeah.
It might impact it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any more questions on road and pond turnover?
I don't have a question on turnover, but I do have a road question.
Yeah,
So I was driving around the other day and touring the neighborhood, and I drove right in through the construction entrance and all the way into Pelican. I thought we were not gonna allow that for a while.
Where's Bob?
Sarah,
Well,
you wanna, if you could, sorry.
Talking about the old construction entrance where they moved the gatehouse at the back.
There was no gatehouse where
That's,
I drove in.
okay, that's why.
I saw lots and lots of tractors. We just drove right all the way through the neighborhood.
Yeah, the gatehouse where it used to be back there where it was armed has been moved somewhere closer to Prado. And when I asked if they're gonna put something there, a barrier of some sort then in its place, they're like, yeah, we're gonna put a lake there. That's why they moved it, cause a pond's going there. But they haven't, they're starting that process of digging it out, so eventually that road will just drive right into a pond. But, and also it came up about the fence, when they're gonna put the fence in, that's part of the DRI, and they responded that they're bidding that out, but it's not immediate, expect for it September, October to go along that whole pass back there. So, in the meantime, there's nobody manning that section.
Anybody can come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anytime, day or night.
Yep.
Since they moved the gatehouse, yes.
Whose responsibility is it to keep this community somewhat secure? Is it WCI's?
We don't use the word secure.
We have access control. We don't-
Access control, fine.
Right. I mean, they had it manned, they've moved it, so they should have put up some sort of barrier, I would think, to protect that area until the lake is there, but I don't have a response to that as of now. Might be a good idea to report it, though, if you want, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
or, and.
to WCI directly.
yeah.
Yep.
I think it is of concern,
Mm-hmm.
so it needs to be reported.
Jan, tell Carol too, Carol Brocky. Make sure she'll be on top of it too.
Carol Brocky?
Okay. Okay, anything more on road and pond turnover? If not, we'll go, the second budget workshop will be a week from tomorrow. So the 22nd at 2 p.m. And the three of us will be available, as well as Nancy Olson. You folks on the phones, we'd like to have you join us if you're able to do so.
What time is it gonna be, Phil?
2 o'clock, Bob, our time.
Okay, I'll be there.
You'll be there. Ron, do you think you can make it?
I'll be there.
I'm not sure, but I will definitely try to be available.
Okay.
Sure.
John?
July 22nd,
Correct, right.
2 o'clock.
Yep.
It looks like I could call in yet.
Okay, we'll try and have the phones working by that time, so that we don't.
Or just use a conference call number.
Well, that's what we did, but this, we tried to get you, we were using a conference call number, and we couldn't get more than 2 parties on the one phone. We managed to get Ron and Bob on here, but we couldn't get more than 2. So that's got.
There's other ways.
The gateway's conference call number.
Well, that could be. We will get. Yeah, well, we'll get it resolved by then, or I will not be happy, to say the very least. The next thing is the GSCDD board meeting report.
Hey, Phil,
Yes,
this is Ron.
Yeah.
Just real quick on item 9, post orders.
oh, okay, yeah, we
could
had
drop-
taken that out because I thought but go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'm just gonna say, based on our last meeting, I met with Bob, French, and Sarah. We went through the comments from the last meeting, and they're being incorporated in a new version of the post orders will be coming out sometime this week, I think tomorrow. The same thing with the access control matrix. I know you've had some concerns about that. It's also being revised, and that should also be out tomorrow or at the very least early next week.
Okay. The basic document was approved by the GSCDD, as I indicated, and I think that I notified them that it was a working document, subject to change, so I think we can go forward and make those changes as necessary.
Yeah, I saw that thing from the board meeting. Sure.
Right, okay.
That-
With regard to the board meeting report, I think you've all seen my written report, and I just, a couple of comments on it. Number one, I took the liberty of having the board include in their approval of the cash flow and investment model that Stephen could roll over CDs as necessary to keep our money working, but to still give us some return. But he obviously will be very careful to ensure that we have enough funds available for what we need to do. We have this issue, and John, maybe I'll wait till we get to your report about the background checks. Bob, on drainage easements, I was just curious, do we foresee any problems that we'll have in accessing the ponds to do the work we need, that needs to be done, or, pond improvement?
We have not had a problem to date, and I would not anticipate anyone in the future. We got some pretty generous easements.
Okay,
We may not have all happy people,
yes. But we have generous easements.
but we have generous easements.
Any more questions on the GSCDD report? Moving along. Safety and Security Work Group. Yeah, I know, in fact, we're trying to see whether we can keep using that. That's come up.
I don't understand why it's an issue.
It's an issue because we're a limited access community, not a gated community, and so it may become an issue.
We still should be offering some sort of secure service.
Yeah, well, we are making the recommendation, I hope all of you had a chance to look at it, that we're making a recommendation to this committee and asking it, that the committee in turn recommend to the GSCDD board that a traffic control agreement be signed with the Fort Myers Police Department. And the written report, I think, has given you our reasoning for this, so I would welcome your questions and discussion of that subject.
Have we had any accidents?
Ron?
Yeah, Phil, just a quick question. I know you guys have also been talking to Lee County. Has that gone anywhere?
What we have decided to do, Ron, with that regard is, once we get the Fort Myers Police Department situation locked up, then we're gonna try and coordinate the work of both the Lee County Sheriff and the Fort Myers Police Department and get a program going that will involve both of them.
Okay.
So that would be our approach to the situation. We wanted to get the agreement with the police department done, and then we're gonna put together a program, because both the lead guys from both of those organizations have said that they would be willing to, work together and work with us to put together a program,
Sure.
on safety.
Does the traffic study that, Fort Myers will be doing, is that gonna satisfy the CDD requirement for a traffic study?
We hope so.
Okay. Just, by the way, that was just a very general comment about the bike path.
Yeah.
I know there was some comments about whether or not the bicycle symbols should be taken out.
Yep.
It just seemed to me, since whether golf carts are allowed in there or not, bicycles are going to be allowed in there, either way. So you don't need to take those bicycle signs out regardless. You may want to add car signs in there maybe, but you shouldn't have to take out the bicycle signs regardless of which way they go. Just a general comment.
Yes, I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more on that. And further, that our research has shown that the DRI says that the community needs to provide for bicycle paths in here. So that was the reason I made my comments that I did to Bill Guy at the meeting about removing those things, because I just don't think it's appropriate at this point.
Yeah, it just seemed to me that based on your summary that there was some discussion about taking those bicycle signs off, and there's really no need to do that no matter what happens or what decision is made on golf carts.
Well, very good. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Jan,
Okay.
you had a question about?
I understand the need for, safe driving cars, bicycles too. They have to abide by the rules of the road. But have we had any incidences, accidents, injuries? We have.
Yes.
As a result of all of this?
Well, as a result of people driving
Kind of
carelessly.
the free-for-all that people are doing now, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I know. And Jan, as we said in the memo, part of this is, and certainly, the point was made by the previous safety and security work group, that as we get more and more people in here, the chances of having an accident increase. Because you got more and more people, and even if the same percentage of drivers are not obeying the laws, there are gonna be more of them. And so the thinking is, let me say that as a general background situation, there is no silver bullet on safety here. Each one of the things that we're proposing are just increments to try and make the place just a little bit more safe each time, and this is one of the increments. This is not the answer to the maiden's prayers, but we believe that it's a valuable step forward. Bob, I know you had some concerns about this. Are you still there?
Oh, yeah. No, really, I don't think my position has changed.
Yeah.
I didn't see the need for it, but, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I just, I would like to see something like that. I think it would be nice to get an affirmation from the community, but I also see the political realities of what's happened on the GCDD board. So it doesn't matter what I think.
Yeah, well, we mentioned that we kind of did a straw vote of the presidents, community presidents, and a very strong majority of them felt this was worthwhile doing. One of the communities, and Trudy left us here, she took a straw poll in Trieste, and admittedly, there are people who don't think it's a good idea, but about her original poll, she got 12 yeas and 8 no's from people as to whether they thought this was worthwhile. So,
I've just never seen anything happen, and I'll be very honest with you. This morning at 6:30, when I was leaving the town center after doing my physical therapy, I did a rolling stop, because there was absolutely no one, and I say, yes, I'm guilty, but, I mean, if they're gonna put a cop there and give me a ticket.
Well, I think that there's kind of a misunderstanding in the community that we're not gonna have a cop full-time.
No.
We're gonna have a cop in there unannounced, periodically, to try to take care of. It will take a couple of people actually getting tickets for things that they've been doing wrong, and the word will go out. as it's done in other communities, and people will start, you know, it's not just, you know,
Yeah, and by the way, I think initially, what they've told us is they will probably just give warnings to people.
I think, yeah, that's what Virginia did. They kinda have to.
Yeah.
Until we get,
Exactly.
yeah.
So the-
I've never seen
That's,
major speeding or anything like
Oh.
that. Okay, I'm new, but I'm out and about every day and I just,
Walk your dog.
yeah.
I do walk my dog
Okay.
all the time.
On the boulevard.
On the boulevard.
Well, I'm too far from the boulevard to get over there.
Oh, okay.
But we do walk all the way down the end of Matarita and
Go to the
Okay.
fitness thing that we have in the spring. The triathlon.
oh yeah?
In any event, Nancy,
Moving right along.
moving right along. John, are you in support of this?
I am, I have one question
Sure.
too. And as we mentioned about rolling stop, people going through a rolling stop sign, I think our most aggressive problem has been speeding on Pelican Preserve
Boulevard, yes.
Can that be discussed with the police, be more aggressive with speeders, you know, don't.
Well, and that's just the point of this, John, that right now they can't enforce the speed limits on Pelican Preserve
Well, I
Boulevard.
mean, without telling them to ticket a lot of people that just slowly go through a stop sign.
Yeah, we will try and make it we will, if this is signed, we will set up a program, we will talk to Officer Biner, who is the main contact here, and, so that the program is a reasonable program. We're not gonna be real aggressive.
Okay.
Sarah, you had a comment?
I did have a comment. I think it was this morning I drove in, Officer Biner, or somebody was sitting there, and I just pulled to the side and was taking pictures or something, and I wanted to see, and I saw at least 6 people, their brake lights came on, and they were
Yeah.
slowing their roll by them, so just the presence.
The presence of law officers definitely slows people down.
Is it illegal in Florida to do, cameras on like poles or cars and track the speed? Cause my son got like 8 tickets in Colorado
Yeah.
from this one street he'd cut through because he always went 10 miles over the speed limit. Click the camera and he had to pay.
Yeah, well, we've had lots of those things under discussion. I'm not sure that's one we want to take on.
Was he part of the slow learner program?
I can vouch as his mom, definitely slow learner, have many issues.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that.
Hey, Phil, a quick recommendation, given the timing of all this, chances are nothing's gonna be signed, for several months, because they have to do this traffic study and all that good stuff.
Right.
Maybe in fall, the Alliance has a meeting.
Yeah.
One thing to think about is have, Viner show up at that, and between, you and he, maybe give a little presentation as to what this all means, because a lot of people don't understand what will happen, which is not a tremendous difference in what's going on now.
Right. I think that's an excellent idea, Ron, and there's no question, I think, that we would propose to also get something written out to the community to explain the program and why we're doing it. That would be part of it, but that's a very good idea, and I think we should do that. Okay, well, I take it the sense of the committee is that we should make this recommendation, so we can pass a resolution at the next meeting and to do that. Just a couple of other things on safety and security work group. We are taking right now a pretty close look at one area that we think is particularly fraught, and that is the place where Pelican Preserve Boulevard goes over the bridge towards Palazzo. The number of lanes go down to 2 from 4. The speed limit goes from 30 to 15. And we think that the signage there is not very good. It doesn't tell people exactly what's going to happen. So we've come up with a series of new signs to replace the signs that are there. There won't be any more but we think they'll be more helpful, and we would also we're also proposing to have a double yellow line over the bridge to keep people from passing or doing anything crazy there.
Seriously, are they passing on the bridge?
Well, I don't know that they are, but this will help to slow them down as they get onto the
Wisdom
bridge.
with age is like going out the window here.
So we'll come back to you with a specific proposal in that regard. We're also looking at setting up a system, and I ran this past the president's meeting this morning. We get an awful lot of complaints about commercial vehicles violating the laws in here. People get very disturbed at speeding trucks and that kind of thing. And we're looking at setting up some kind of a thing to ask people to report these things and to keep track of the reporting. So you'll be hearing more about that as we go forward. So that's another issue we're working on. Any other questions on safety and security work group?
Do we have the option to change the speed limit on some of the streets?
That's one of the things that has been suggested in certain places as to whether that 15-mile-per-hour speed limit makes sense, and probably, maybe it doesn't. It's one issue that we'll eventually get on our agenda. Yep. Okay, with no questions on that, Bob, you want to give us a little run on the ponds?
Well, really, we don't have anything to report. Things are all quiet.
Okay.
We are moving ahead with our aeration, but we haven't quite reached the point where we're going to get bids out yet. I've already talked about what's happening with the process of Track L coming over to us.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, no news is good news. Everything's quiet.
Okay. All right, any questions of Bob? Okay, we'll move on to John.
Okay, I'm up. My July 6th asset work group report, which I assume everybody's received,
Yes.
was Tony's response to WCI's legal counsel, questions and requested revisions.
John?
I'm here.
I'm sorry. I thought I was
The
gonna
report
move
also
closer.
attached all the exhibits, the maps, etc. But then on July 13th, I updated the report to include a copy of Tony's July 11th email, which regarding the background checks of our security company, he wanted those included in the maintenance contract. At the time I received Tony's email, I didn't have any problem with that. I didn't think there was any problem at all. I now understand that this language may need some revision,
Well,
and I need comments from our committee.
well, let's put it this way, John. Right now, I've asked Tony to relook at that because it turns out that Securitas does not do annual background checks. I recognize that the security company that handles Stony Brook does, but Securitas does not. Once they hire somebody, that person receives a license of some kind, and if there are any violations, if they are picked up for anything, that is reported back. So that's the way they keep track of their people. And what I've asked Tony is that an acceptable thing? I sent him basically what they do, and he says he's gonna have to run that by the board, is to see whether that's acceptable to the board. That language was added because of the board's concern, which I think I mentioned in my report. The board's concern and what they've done in Stony Brook, and also, their mindfulness of the fact that the Orlando shooter was a security guard. So that's one that the language change, I think that's kind of in Tony's court now.
Are there any other comments regarding what WCI's legal counsel had or any of our attachments? I think they're pretty well up to date except for this security issue.
Yeah.
Anybody else have comments regarding those?
The only question I had was on your number 8. This $500 a month thing, and you said suggested language is not acceptable.
In other words, no, we are not paying the $500.
Okay. So that one still has to be resolved, is that right?
No, well, Tony took it out of the contract
Okay,
that he said.
okay,
So, I mean, I don't know if WCI came back to him with
Okay.
that, but, as far as the board and the CPAC, we see no need for that. Why are they adding that to the contract?
mhm. Okay. All right, I'm just curious as to how, so that hasn't, as far as you know, that's just in, WCI's court now.
That is correct.
Okay,
We did not accept the 500.
okay, okay. That's all right. Okay. Ready to, anything else, John? Any
No,
other,
that's it.
any other questions of John? Bob, I might almost make it here.
I know, I'm watching.
And we started like,
Pretty good.
And we started late. Gateway meeting attendance schedule, I guess we're already scheduled up through, through August or into September?
I've got September 1st.
You've got September 1st, Nancy has September 1st. So,
I don't know past that.
I guess, yeah. Let me look here. And Ron, you've got September 15th. Ron? Are you with us?
Sorry, I had you guys on mute. Yes, September 15th is fine.
September 15th is fine.
Yep.
I think we can wait to our August meeting to set some others.
Mhm.
Okay,
You almost got a couple others, Ron.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, committee member requests and audience comments.
I got one other question of Nancy. Have we made any progress on, converting the bond fund
No.
to current bond usage?
No,
Oh, okay.
no update.
No update, no. Who's, is it in the engineers? bailiwick?
Tetra Tech has to come up with, the revised, whatever that's called, use of funds or whatever, first. So,
Okay. All right. Any other questions, audience comments?
I've got a,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Hi.
how are you, sir?
Yeah,
I have a brief one, just more an informational item if you have a moment.
sure.
Chris Shoemaker, Utility Manager with the district. And I just wanted you to be aware that a couple of years ago, there was a settlement with the Preserve and Johnson Engineering that involved cash payout and then also in-kind services in the amount of $35,000 for engineering at 85% of their rate. And there's a year left.
Can't hear him, Phil.
Oh,
Chris, can you
sorry.
talk up a little bit?
Sir, is that better?
Can you hear him now?
Okay. Yes, there was a settlement agreement a couple of years
Can
ago
you hear
with,
him now?
No, it's still not any better.
No, I can't hear him.
let's see.
Yeah, yeah, what,
grab one of these mics,
Okay.
yeah.
see if that's better.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
How about now?
Now you're good.
Keep talking.
Yes, sir. A couple of years ago, there was a settlement agreement, and I'm not sure of the specifics, but it involved Johnson Engineering and the Preserve, and the settlement was $25,000 in cash, and it also included $35,000 in in-kind engineering services at 85% of their customary rate. And since that time, the only money that's been expended out of that fund has been about $2,500 to survey some staff gauges in the ponds. And the reason I bring that up is that money, according to the agreement, will sunset a year from this week. So it's a use it or lose it proposition. So if you have any type of need for some engineering, and as you know, the speed engineers work at, you know, you don't want to wait till the 10th month of the year, but it's something to consider, and something to, if you have some tasks related to that or some engineering tasks that need to be done, move forward with it and move forward with Johnson.
Well,
Yeah.
Johnson Engineering,
I have a
Bob,
recommendation if nobody else has.
I was gonna
anything.
say, Bob, I was gonna ask you, could you use those services?
Absolutely. And staff gauges and I can get you a list of the ponds we need them in, because although some work was done, it was quite unsatisfactory. But if we get Johnson says they're gonna do it to actually install the gauges and measure the ponds, we would very much like to have that.
Yeah, I think here I see it was in November 2015. They did surveying services, staff gauges in Lake 7, 12, 25, and 28.
Does that sound right, Bob?
Oh, yeah, that's right, but the problem is that, I don't know who blessed it and said they got them, but we never saw the result.
Okay, well, I can look and see if I can get the engineering report from that, but that money's just sitting there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you interface directly,
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, sure, it's Chris Shoemaker, and I'm right here at the Gateway office.
Okay, Chris, I'll call you as soon as.
and Chris, it's good to meet you. Chris is the new utilities manager, and so and now that part of us is gonna be on your utilities. Good to meet you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask if anybody else on this committee was aware that we had a settlement agreement with, okay, so that happened in
Yeah,
my hiatus here,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah. I was aware of it.
okay.
I must admit,
Balance is back on the wheel.
So we got the 25,000, but we haven't really used the 35,000.
Right, and the engineering isn't specific that it has to be used in Pelican. It can be used anywhere in Gateway, but I assume because it originated out of Pelican, I didn't want to figure let you people know and hopefully do something with it.
Bob, you got that information on Chris?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Any other comments? Okay, our next regular meeting will be on August 11th, but we will have a special meeting. I'm not gonna call it a budget meeting. On the 22nd of July. And at that meeting, we can do these very quickly. We need to approve the minutes from June 9th and June 21st. The PPAC charter, recommending that to the board. Recommending the landscape contract with Ameriscape to the board. Recommending the, undertaking the traffic control agreement to the board. And then most importantly, we will have to spend our time on the budget and reconciling where we stand and what we can do to bring the numbers down. I think we certainly can do that, but we need to decide exactly where we go with that. So those are the items that will be on the agenda for the next meeting. Any other questions or comments?
Under 2 hours.
I will entertain a motion that the meeting be adjourned.
So,
John moves, the meeting is adjourned. Bob, 7 minutes.
Plenty of time to spare.
Plenty of
But I
time.
have- This wasn't an official meeting.
good comment.
Did you hear John? Did you hear John's comment?
Yeah, mine was the shortest on record.
Yeah, it was. It was very good.
still got money.
Yeah.
Are you going to be using these budget numbers at the meeting next week?
Yes, you want to hang on to those.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Because they will-
All right, bye, John.
Bye, John. Bye, Ron. Bob,
Take care,
thank you.
everyone.
Thanks.
See you guys later.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
I still have 36%.
Hmm?
I still have 36% juice left.
I see. Thank you ladies, for letting us use your phones for this
It's fine.
thing.
We will not be here on August 11th.
August 11th, yes, you had already told us that. You told us that the last meeting. That's fine. You know, as long as we can get a quorum,
Quorum,
that's
yeah, I know that's really important.
That's the critical issue.
Oh.
Okay.
So I wanna keep this.
So you'll need contracts then, updated contracts for them to sign it with Morgan, will they sign it then, or do they approve it?
No,
and
I
you
think
sign
they
it?
approve it and then
We
they
sign
go
it
to.
or something, okay.
You
Yeah,
sign, yeah, the
Master does.
master does, yeah.
Master
On
signs
behalf
it.
of their approval, okay.
Yeah.
Are we looking at Cypress Grove at this time, or no?
Oh, you mean whether that ought to be included?
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping it as a separate one, but I just
Yeah.
don't know.
I think it better stay separate
I
for
think
the
so
time
too,
being.
yeah, I would say we would probably,
Okay,
yeah. So I can use the costs that you've got there
for
as,
budget.
yeah. Carol, you got,
Oh, yeah.
a little flavor?
Oh, that phone was crazy.
That was unusual, we haven't experienced that.
That was particularly bad.
John is right, that we can use, a service.
Oh, yeah,
that-
cause we use it.
Well, that's
for-
what we've done. When I was on the board, we used
Probably
to.
has one that you can use.
Yeah, we use it for our SSWG meetings, cause we have a couple of people
Yeah.
off-site, yeah, there's no reason for it to be that.
And everybody calls into that main number, and then the main number gets
Yeah,
Yeah.
switched
Yeah.
in.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right, see you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye,
Thanks,
Carol.
Carol.
Oh, you know what?
What?
I had a, I'm all set. I did all the banking stuff,
Oh, good.
but,
We should have introduced Carol to everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
This is
should
Carol
have.
Stanley, and she's running for the
Gary
supervisor
Supervisor.
seat,
Hi.
for supervisor.
For supervisor,
CDD.
the CDD.
I was on it for
She's
6
fro-
years.
She's
She's an
one of our
experienced-
Pelican
she's-
neighbors.
And she's an experienced person, and we need a Pelican person on the
Yes, we
board,
do.
so.
Oh, we got new
Carol's the
look
person.
it, somebody made these. These are
Mhm.
new. We didn't have these before. when
I see, well, see, that's the Benny,
This
the
is
Benny
so
coming back
classy.
on the board.
I know. We used to just always use paper towels.
Yeah.
Wow. That must
So-
have been a Christmas present or something.
I know, I
Suppose
think-
they contracted somebody to
No, it
make
was
them?
one of the ladies that worked here did it for
Oh,
him.
nice.
Yeah.
Probably Gail.
I don't know.
She was into
So
all
all
that
your sunglasses
happy
then?
stuff.
Yes, thank you very much, yeah.
I don't think you're gonna need them.
I don't think so either, I may
Yeah.
need this.
You might.
So-
I sent out a letter to all the supervisors, just saying, hi, my name is Carol Stanley, and if you have a few minutes,
Yeah.
you know, I'd like to meet with you, just to get
Hey.
your opinion, because after I'm on, we can't talk. So,
Yeah.
just that kind of thing.
Good.
And it was an email thing.
Yeah.
I said, I'm emailing you just because I didn't want to call you and cut you with your fork in your mouth. And,
Yeah.
you know, this would give you a choice of whether
Yeah.
to meet with me or not.
Mhm.
And I put that exploding head thing on, you know, that I've been doing my homework and blah, blah, blah. Well, this morning, I get the nicest
Thank you,
call
Sarah.
from Pam Gill.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Bye-bye.
Pam Gill called me this morning. Very nice.
Yeah.
You know, she just said, I was so delighted to see, you know, that.
Oh, she's a lovely lady.
Yes, very
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah,
very
she
nice.
seems very nice.
And, you know, she told me things that she was interested in having go forward, and, you know, that
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
she's not interested in fighting, and I said, you know what, she said, oh, you're not gonna have any problems. You know, nobody knows, what's her name, Kathy Flaherty, you're not gonna have any problems.
She said that, huh?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, but
interesting.
see, anytime, if you've been a candidate before, and you have a brain,
Yeah.
that should scare the hell out of you. You know, because a lot of people say, well, that's just cool. I'm like, yeah, right. I'll believe that when I'm taking the oath, you know. So, but anyhow, that was very
Oh,
nice
that's
of
good.
her.
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
good.
So, and then Gary sent me, he gave me all his stuff on a thumb drive, all of
Oh,
his
wow,
personal stuff and
great.
his input. So, Ted said, well, when are we gonna be able to see the top of the dining room table again? I said, that would probably be November 8th, you know. But I haven't heard from the rest of them, but anyhow, so that was nice of her,
Yes, that was
Yeah.
very nice.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's great.
She said that Ed Tinkle was saying all kinds of nasty stuff about her out there. I said, just don't pay attention to it.
Who?
Ed Tinkle is
Oh,
running.
yeah, she's
running
running
against
against him,
her.
right, yeah, right.
And she said, what, are you sorry that, you know, somebody filed against you? 'Cause I am. She said, I just want this over with. I don't think she even cares, really, but, I said, no, actually, I said, yeah, I'm disappointed because had I been running unopposed, I could have sat on my
Yeah.
till November. Now,
Yeah,
I'm
to
studying
work,
her,
yeah,
yeah, but that's a
See, I
good
think-
thing.
I think Ed thought she wasn't gonna run it.
Well, I said to her, you know, you don't be discouraged. I said, you're the only one that can put reelect on your little posters and your things, and that has some
For sure.
meaning, that
Yeah.
has some value,
Yeah.
you know. She said, well, I don't wanna fight. I said, I don't wanna fight either. I'm happy to have competition. I said, you know, when you're running in a race, if you're running by yourself, you don't run fast, but if somebody's next to you,
Yep.
you know, so.
Yep.
But anyhow, so that was positive, nice gal. All right, good meeting.